Good morning. Today is the Feast of the Presentation of the Lord, or traditionally known as the Circumcision of the Lord, or the Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The oldest church in Georgia, in Sharon, Georgia, which is outside of Washington, Georgia, which is a little north of I-20 before you get to Augusta. It's in the middle of nowhere. Is named the Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And actually, it's a beautiful church that's recently, in the last several years, been restored, and there's a retreat center out there called the Heritage Center being built, and it's got these beautiful cottages and all sorts of nature opportunities for prayer. If you haven't looked into it, I would encourage you to look up the Purification Heritage Center, and it's a beautiful thing there. Maybe we'll take a field trip, but it's a long drive from here. Today's also known as Candlemas, as Christ is revealed as the light of the nations. The church traditionally blesses the candles that are used in worship this day. Not candles that we have in our house, but rather the candles that are set aside specifically for the use of at worship. But in the gospel here, we see that as Mary and Joseph are keeping the law, they know that it's the time after 40 days for Mary's purification. So it's 40 days since Christmas. Traditionally, Christmas, even though Christmas ends with the Epiphany, traditionally Christmas was continued to be celebrated up until this time. Instead of starting the day after Halloween, it was like flipped around. But so Mary and Joseph take Jesus to the temple. Mary is purified. They offer the sacrifice of the two turtle doves or young pigeons. Jesus is presented to the Lord, and this old man, Simeon, right? This old man who's been waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. This old man who has been waiting for the Messiah, right? He prophesies and he says to Mary and Joseph, "Behold, this child is destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel, and a sign that will be contradicted." Of course, he prophesies of Mary, "And you yourself a sword will pierce." But he has this beautiful canticle, "Lord, now you let your servant go in peace. Your word has been fulfilled." Your word has been fulfilled. Your word of salvation has been fulfilled. A light to the nations, right? This light of revelation to the Gentiles. And so Jesus Christ is the light to the nation. He is the light that banishes the darkness. He is the light that overcomes the world. Being presented here at 40 days old. Here is the light of salvation. And so, again, that's why traditionally we bless candles for use in worship this day, because we recognize the light of those candles is the light of Christ. It's the light that brings order to chaos. It's the light that scatters the darkness. At the Easter Vigil, we start in total darkness, right? We start outside. We can't start at 6 p.m. Some parishes, they start at 6 p.m. and they're like, "Oh, it's close enough because, we don't want people to, be out too late. We don't want to inconvenience anybody." Easter Vigil starts at night. In fact, 9 o'clock is really early to start the Easter Vigil too. It's dark, but it's like just dark. Maybe one day we'll start the Easter Vigil at like 3 a.m. Wouldn't that be fun? That probably would be just me. It wouldn't even be me. It would be Father Michael. But the Easter Vigil, right, it starts in total darkness, and that fire is roaring, symbolizing the light of Christ. And then from that fire is lit the Paschal candle, right? And then that Paschal candle enters into the church with just the one single light. And then from that light, the light is spread, right? Everybody lights their individual candles, and slowly the church fills with light. If you've never been to the Easter Vigil, you should come to it. It's so beautiful. It's so inspiring, right? Then the lights all go out, the candles go out, and there's the readings from the Old Testament of salvation history until finally the Gloria is proclaimed. And all the lights in the church come on. The candles on the altar are all lit or lighted. Is it lighted or lit? Are you sure? Yeah, now you're thinking too. Yeah, we got a weird language we speak. And so the flame on the candles, right, they represent Christ to us. Right? They represent Jesus Christ. They're light to the nations. And that's why the modern kind of accretion of event photographers and florists at weddings that is known as the unity candle doesn't have a place in the Catholic liturgy. I know, I'm so mean. Because what do the lights on the candles of the unity candle represent? You got the two candles, the parents' light, right? They represent the parents. And then the couple, after they're married, they take the two candles and they light the one big candle. And what does that represent? The couple. But the reason that's problematic is because the sacrament already has a sign. The sign of unity of the sacrament of matrimony is the couple itself. They don't need a candle to do that. And then that kind of takes away from the fact that the light of the candle represents Christ. Represents Christ's light to the world, light to the nations, light of salvation. So sorry if I rained on your unity candle parade. If you had a unity candle at your wedding, no, your wedding's not invalid. It's fine. You can, But, if when your kids go to get married and the priest says, no, you can't have a unity candle, those are silly, just don't get mad. Mothers of the bride especially. Yeah. One time, the mother of the bride tried to follow the bride into the meeting, the first meeting. This wasn't here, this was in Athens. And I closed the door right in her face, and it was locked. She's out there, rattling the handle and knocking on the door, and I was like, oh, can I help you? She said, well, I'm here for the meeting. Why'd you close the door? I said, oh, your daughter's getting married, right? Not you. She said, yeah, but I need to be in there. I said, if your daughter's old enough to get married, she doesn't need you. And if she needs you, then she probably shouldn't be getting married. So anyway. I know. Father Tim's so mean. Anyway. Candlemas, the light of revelation, the light to the nations. Jesus Christ manifests himself as a small child, as a 40-day-old child, and this old man Simeon sees it. And he says, okay, I can die now. I can die now because I've seen the light of salvation. And for all of us, that ought to be our response too. I recognize Christ's presence in the world. I've seen his light, and I know that he is here for salvation. I know that he has a plan, and that plan is not for me to remain here in the toil of this world, but that plan is for me to be restored to the original state of creation, whereby we were friends with God, where we walked with God, where we were in union with God. And then we recognize that through our baptism, and that lighted candle, right, that we get at baptism, it's lit, I think I used it right that time, the lighted candle that's lit from the Paschal candle, it represents the light of Christ that we have been given, and parents and godparents, this light is entrusted to you to be kept burning brightly. Because we've been enlightened by Christ, we've been illuminated by Christ, we've been redeemed by Christ, we've been restored by Christ. And so then we were able to go forward in our lives, proclaiming the gospel. We're able to go forward in our lives, living not for this world. It doesn't matter if, the Iranians and the Russians and the Chinese all send nukes at us this afternoon. Doesn't matter, because we don't live for this world. We live for the next. We live for God. We live to be people of the light. And so on this feast day of Candlemas, let us ask the Lord that he would continue to illuminate our hearts and our souls, that we may recognize the goodness of God, that we may strive each and every day to do his will.